they go out and they go out as young adults, that's when things can go astray, you know?
Yeah. Hello guys, welcome once again to Parenting with Festus, and I remain your host Festus. And as you all know on this show, it's about parenting. We hear from different parents what their style of parenting, what the challenges they experience has been. And today on the show we have with us a wonderful personality who happens to be a father and a grandfather as well. His name is Tony. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Tony. I'm 63.
Nice.
I know I don't look it, but that's because I had a good life.
Nice. Well, thank you, Tony, for coming to the show. So first off, I would like you to explain to me that what it means to be a good father.
I think what it means to be a good father is that you have, first and foremost, a really good relationship with your children, and that they know you're there to support them in everything.
Yeah.
And that you know that you're trying to give them everything, the tools to get them through life. And part of that is, as they're growing up, you teach them right from wrong, because that's ultimately going to transpire into then how you develop as an adult yourself, and how they develop as an adult.
Well, let me ask you this: what's your ideal style of parenting? Is it the traditional, or is it the one that is the modern style? That
Well, mine personally would have been more traditional. It has changed from when I was a parent to being a grandparent. Firstly, I would have been traditional, and there would have been more discipline from my childhood, which I would have brought possibly to the start of when I was starting my family, you know. So I would have changed then from that. As the kids kind of grew up, they developed their own personalities.
yeah.
So that has an impact on you as well. Because effectively, for want of a better word, you have good kids. All kids are good.
Yeah.
But some are obviously better than others.
Yeah.
And you couldn't put your finger on what makes a child go one way or the other. You know what I mean? You can only try and guide them as best you can.
So let me ask you this: the style you emulated to use on your kids, was it from the style that your parents used?
Yes, definitely.
In bringing you up?
It would have, yes. And that would have been a fairly strict upbringing. Like, you'd done what your mother or your father told you. You had to be in at a certain time. You didn't do anything kind of wrong. There was always a right and wrong way of doing things, and you obviously strive to do everything right, because number one, there was always a consequence if you done something wrong. It was a case of wait till your father gets home and then you'd get it.
So now that everything seems to have changed from the time you were growing till now, as is it time? Should I put it as time or age influence your style? You know, now the way you raised your kids is different from the way that you are now as a grandfather.
Yes, definitely.
Are you still using the same style, or you have advanced?
No, I've obviously you change, because with your own children, it's slightly different.
Yeah.
They're your full responsibility. When you're a grandparent, yes, you're there for them. You do everything as much as you did for your own children. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they go home with their parents. Their parents raise them as best they can. Now, being a grandparent doesn't stop you either telling them where you think they're going wrong. If you see there's a failing there somewhere, obviously it's not always welcome. They don't want to kind of hear your kind of negative things of how you would have done it, because things have moved on.
Yeah.
People are much more, I would suggest, I won't say caring, because you always care for your kids. They don't seem to be as harsh as we might have been. Like when we would have said no, in my day, no means no. Nowadays, you will have the children say, but I want to do this. And it's an argument then. You're saying no, but the kids are arguing back with you.
Yeah.
But I want to do this. You know, so that end of it has changed an awful lot. That I don't think children respect their parents as much as they would have done in my time.
Oh yeah, that's true. So is there anything rewarding in being a grandparent?
Oh, everything. It's you get to enjoy children again. The biggest thing from being a parent to being a grandparent, when you're a parent, you have all the responsibility. You're out there working. You're working all the time God gave you, and to keep a roof over their head, to get them clothes, to educate them, to give them all the good things in life. That comes with a cost, and the cost of that is that you don't have the time to spend with your family that everyone would like. You know, as a grandparent, that's when it differs. My time isn't spent. I don't have to work around the clock. I'm in a much better financial position, so therefore I'm not under that pressure. So therefore I'm able to give my time more freely to my grandchildren. So that's a very rewarding part. I find that I spend much more time with my grandchildren than I even did with my own children, because of the work commitments, and especially nowadays it takes two people to kind of keep a roof over your head.
Yeah.
The mother traditionally would have stayed at home and looked after the family. Now it's both parents, both of them are working, and both have to then have a bigger input into the family.
Well, so if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger parent and so?
Basically, yes, to spend more time with my family. If I can genuinely say, the one regret would be that I didn't spend enough time. You know, now don't get me wrong, I've had these conversations with, I have a son and a daughter, and I've had these conversations. I was lucky enough to work with my son for a good few years, and we were very close, and we would sit down and I would say to him, I'm sorry, I should have done this or I should have done that, and he says no. He said, because I was his boss in one of the jobs, and I was harder on him than I was on other people, only because I expected him to be so much better than everyone else. So that was the big thing. But I did, that would be me one regret. I always said to him, I'm sorry if I was harder on you. And his reaction, which was brilliant to me, was no, I wouldn't change that, because you made me who I am now. And I felt the exact same way about my own father. I wouldn't change a thing in my life, the way I was brought up, because that has made me who I am as a person. And I see it then in my son, who is a very, very good parent now. I would suggest he's a better parent than I was, because he's more hands-on, which again is part and parcel of that would be, we've moved on in generational things.
Yeah.
Years ago, the father went to work, he didn't look after the kids, he came home late at night, Kids were usually in bed, you might see them the weekend, all that sort of stuff. Then in my generation, we were a bit more hands-on. Now in my son's generation, it's 50-50. It takes two people to work to run the house, and therefore it takes two people to raise the family.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Do you think the type of friends that children keep affect, aside from having a good loving family at home, do you still think that friendship still matters in them turning out to be good or bad?
Yes, definitely. Part of it can be, obviously, if you're around, for want of a bad word, a bad crowd, you by default, you get dragged into these ways of bad habits, getting up to all sorts. But what I would suggest to counteract that, in my experience, 99% of the time, children gravitate to people of the same moral standard. Like, if you're not a bully, you're not going to be hanging around with bullies. So that's what I would see, and I would have said I'd experienced that in my life, that children steer to people that are kind of nearly mirror images of themselves, you know. And unfortunately, there is times when they do get in with a bad crowd. While they might be great when they're around you, when you're parenting them and they're in their home, but when they go out, and they go out as young adults, that's when things can go astray, you know?
Yeah. So, okay, now you have kids of different ages. While they were growing up, how do you manage conflict amongst them? Not to show some level of favoritism, you know. I used to hear this, that there is always the parent favorite amongst the children. But you as a parent, how do you balance it if there is a conflict, and then, so, you know, you have to have a conflict resolution, and then you won't favor one above the other for them not to feel inferior to each other?
Well, in fairness, no matter what people say, you will always have one child that just has a little bit more of your heart. Not in any way on a daily basis. That's just life in general. They just have that little bit. But there would never be a case where that would go into where you're treating one child different than the other. It's just possibly a smaller feeling, I won't say of more love, but there's just that little thing, something about them that there is. Like, I can genuinely say, my first grandchild, he would be my favourite. He would be, because I, as well as that, I was in a different position. I was able to spend more time with him. I actually was brought him up for the first 4 years of his life. So he has a special part in my heart. But I have 4 grandchildren, and I treat them all equally the same. You know, that's all I could say. There would be no difference. There certainly would be no difference when it would come to conflict. I wouldn't say, oh, well, he's my favourite, so I won't give out to him, or I'll just give out to them. No, if there's 4 of them there and they're all up to no good, they all get it equally.
Thank you for that. So on a final note here, I would like you to give a word of advice to parents with young kids, or people that are thinking of having kids sometimes in the future.
People that are thinking of kids, I would say it's the best thing in the world to not be afraid, not overthink it. That's the glue that keeps people together, because you've a vested interest in bringing this child up. the child is nearly a mirror image of you both, because that's the future. And you see them. So yes, by all means, nobody should be afraid of having a child. It's a blessing if you do have one, as long as the two of you are together and solid and know where you want to go in life. Be there for the children, give them everything you can, because what you give them, you get back tenfold. So that's probably it.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate the time.
No problem.
And there you go, audience. This is the end of the podcast for today. Till see the next time. Stay blessed.